So just so that you all know, this session is being recorded, so you can watch it later. And additionally, we can play it back and it'll probably get used for those of you that missed it and wanted to catch up on it. I'll be going through some of the more important rules for the way the game works, and also finishing off with a bit of a talk about safety. At any point, please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. I sometimes forget what is implied knowledge for those of us who've been in this game for years, as opposed to people for whom it's very new as players. You may have been watching it for quite some time, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how it works when you're actually playing and some of the consequences. And that said, the rules for things like the NHL are different to the rules that we play under in the iceHQ B League, and also slightly different to some of the rules if you have looked at or played IHV or any other of the domestic or internationally based hockey rules. The NHL rules and the International Ice Hockey Federation rules are different. They're similar, and the game looks very similar, but it's not the same. And what we do is different again. Hopefully my dog won't interrupt too much. Oops, that's not what we want. Okay, so first of all, I've got a bunch of slides which we're going to kind of look at, but I'm going to mostly talk over the top of them, and we'll slot in videos and so forth as well. So first of all, stoppages. And when the referee blows a whistle, the game stops immediately. What this means, and the referees are really, really tough on it. If you've got a loose puck, you're trying to score a goal or whatever, and the whistle blows, you must immediately stop. You must not continue to hammer away at the puck. It's usually a safety issue, in particular when the referee is dealing with a situation where the puck is underneath the goaltender. It's about protecting them. You've got skates and a weapon, and quite possibly a bad case if I want to stick the puck in the net and the goalie is in a vulnerable position lying on the ground, covering the puck in some way, shape or form, and the referee's priority is to protect the goaltender. And if the whistle stops, if the whistle blows, you must stop immediately. If you shoot the puck down the other end or some other piece of time wasting, you will get 2 minutes for delay the game, or possibly even unsportsmanlike, which can be potentially a more major time in the penalty box. So if the referee blows the whistle, what are we going to do?
We're going to stop.
We're going to stop. Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Please feel free to chime in when I pause. It's a bit difficult to tell, obviously, over Zoom. It's not the same as when we're in in an environment we're all in the same place, but this is a lot more scalable. We started doing Zoom sessions last season, and it seemed to work reasonably well. So hopefully for most of you, this will be a useful thing. All right, what have we got after stoppages? Contact. So you can all kind of read through those points that are on the slides if you can see them. But bear in mind that the key part to remember is that although some of the rinks marketing suggests that the game is non-contact, this is not the case. The rules that we play under are what's called non-checking. And there's a big difference between the two. There's going to be contact. You're going to crash into each other. You're allowed to crash into each other within reason, as long as your intent is to play the puck and not to separate the player from the puck. And there's a big difference there. But you're going to get pushing and shoving and so forth. So I want to show you a video. This is those of you that know her, Ash Elliott. She got a penalty for a body check. I think it was called interference, but it was a body check in the game 3 of the grand final last week. So I'm going to show it to you, and this is an example of, where are you, Ash? No, not the one where you're having the fight in the goal mouth. That's different. She's a bit famous, Ashley. She's feisty. Offside, very clear. Offside. Here we go. So it's from the rink camera, and so it does look a little bit weird, and you kind of got to watch it a little bit more carefully, because what happens actually occurs up in the top right hand screen, and you can see that the blue team, the McDaddies, have just got possession, and they clear the puck out very badly up to Luke, who I think you'll hear. Luke goes over to pick it up, and Ashley, where's the puck there? She wasn't contesting the puck, was she, Luke?
No, it doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't look like it at all, does it? That's a clear instance of an illegal check. Rather than contest the puck, she's actually hit you and separated you from the puck. Now, that's an illegal thing. in this grade. We'll watch how it pans out. Down goes Luke, off goes Ash, and she's like, what do I do? It's like, well, you earned yourself 2 minutes in the penalty box for that one. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, why do you think it is that those sorts of collisions are not permitted in our league?
Well, first and foremost, it's a development league, so people are still learning how to play the game, don't have full situational awareness, yada, yada, yada.
Yep. And it's not just the person receiving the hit that doesn't necessarily have, giving the hit that doesn't have the situational awareness. It's also the person receiving the hit. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into the discussion about safety. But there are some areas on the rink which, if you've ever actually played full contact hockey, and I have, not very many people in Australia have, because you don't get the opportunity to very much anymore unless you've come up through beginners. But I played it back in the old days when it was crazy. And you get taught some pretty important safety skills as part of learning how to play full contact hockey. And it is different to what we do, but we still need to remember that we have to look after and protect our opponents as well as ourselves. We're not trying to kill them. Hopefully that's okay with all of you. So I'll go back to the slideshow now that we've seen. Ash, do you want to watch that video again just so you can kind of see it? I know it's not super clear, but if we watch it again, you can just see up on the top right-hand screen. So I'll grab the annotator out and just kind of draw some circles around it so you can see what's happening. Is that showing up all right for all of you?
Yeah, it's coming through fine.
It's up here.
Yep.
So guy there in the blue, that's Luke. Sorry, the guy there in the blue is Luke. This is Ashley here, and she's coming in, and the puck, I think at this point, has probably moved off in that direction. So it's quite clear from what's going on. There goes the puck. The puck's way up near the blue line, or the mark where the blue line used to be in the old days. And you can see just the puck, I think. Puck's now there. And this is Ashley not contesting the puck. If she'd gone in to contest the puck, that would be perfectly legal, but she didn't. She went to take Luke out of the way instead. She probably didn't necessarily mean it. Inexperienced player, as you say, guys, it's everyone's new and they don't necessarily understand exactly what's going on. So it's very much a learning process. I'll show you an example now of a legal move. I'm pretty sure I put that one in here. Penalty kill. This might just take me a second. I'd go through the whole afternoon organising sample videos and then got a little bit disorganised this evening as my dog decided it was dinner time. This one. I could spend a long time looking for that, and I don't think it's going to be very helpful. So we'll skip that. We'll just go back on to the slideshow. Again, please feel free to interrupt at any point. Questions are very much encouraged. I want you guys to make this as interactive as we possibly can. So there'll be collisions, there will be fair push and shove. So what do we mean by fair push and shove? If you're in front of the goal mouth and you want to have your stick on the ice and be a viable target for a shot into what's called the slot, so the position sitting in front of the goal mouth, and a defensive player doesn't want you to be there because they want to be there instead, you're going to have what's known as a fair battle for position. There used to be an explicit rule in the older rule book which said that the rules about interference, cross-checking and so forth were relaxed in that area. So that area directly in front of the goal mouth, those rules were relaxed and you could get away with a bit more. That rule disappeared in the most recent rule book, but the referees tell me that they are still allowing leniency in front of the goal mouth. So what that means is if you're an attacking player and there's a defensive player and you're both within a couple of meters of the front of the goal net, you're allowed to jostle for position. You're allowed to push, but you need to do that with a bit of care. If you're playing in a higher grade, maybe you're up in the B grade sort of slot within hockey, you can give each other more of a push and shove. In C2, where everyone's beginners, your push and shove has to be very mindful of the fact that the player that you are pushing is probably not very stable on their feet and is probably likely to fall over and possibly hurt themselves if you give them a decent shove. you go up to B grade and you give me a decent shove, I'll say bring it on, do your best. but in C2 and to a lesser extent C1, if you are contesting for position in front of the net, you need to be mindful of the fact that yes, the rules are a little bit relaxed, but you need to be careful that you don't cause an injury to the people that you're opposing. Okay, the overarching principle is, of course, player safety. This is not the NHL, so no fights. Keep your sticks on the ice and be safe and be respectful and mindful of the players that you're playing against. Everyone's going to work tomorrow, and this is a development grade. And chances are you're going to end up on the same team as a lot of the people at some point throughout the time you play at iceHQ. You'll end up on the same team as the people that you're currently playing against, which means don't make enemies. It's easy to do. Try not to if you can help it. All good?
All good.
Questions? Or everyone's fine with that? We've all got it 100%. I'll take that as a yes. All right. So the rule we play under is, it used to be rule 169. It's now rule 101.1. Not that you care about the number, but you can go and read it. I do suggest that, and I put a copy of it up in the Facebook group. I do suggest that you download a copy of the latest rule book and just have a bit of a flick through it. You don't necessarily have to read the whole thing. It is quite in-depth, and it describes a whole lot of stuff that frankly you probably don't care about, like the width of the lines and what color they have to be and all sorts of wacky stuff like that. It goes into a lot of detail. But you do need to understand this rule, because this is the rule that defines what contact we're allowed to make in beer league, because this is the contact rule which we play under. I do apologize that it's the women's rule. It shouldn't be called that. For starters, personally, I think it's outrageous that men are allowed to play full contact hockey and women are not. Women are allowed to do every other contact sport out there. Why can't they play full contact hockey? There's nothing I can do about it, but I think it's wrong. But the rule we play under is called the women's rule, which is even more insulting, I think. But there you go. So the idea is essentially that as long as you're battling for possession of the puck, you can pretty much do any sort of put your body in the way and shove someone around. What you're not allowed to do is separate them from the puck. It can sometimes be a bit of a subtle distinction, but usually it's pretty obvious. If I'm skating towards the puck and someone else is skating towards the puck from opposite directions, and we both arrive there at the same time and we collide with each other, that's perfectly legal. But think about this. In C2, what are you going to do?
Probably skate into the other person.
Well, you're much more likely to fall over and miss them. But but from the point of view of player safety and understanding this is a development grade, what do you think you would do if you and another skater from the other team are both skating towards what will clearly be contested possession?
Somebody's probably going to blink or slow down, or more likely both players are going to blink.
Both players should slow down and be careful. All right, because again, the likelihood is that at least one of the two of you will fall over, and the hardest thing on the ice is the ice, and we want to avoid collisions if at all possible. Well, not so much we want to avoid collisions, but we certainly want to avoid injury. So if you are skating towards contested puck and you can see that your opponent is coming, and it looks likely that you're likely to have a collision, slow down a bit. Back it off. Don't hurt them. It's easy to do, especially because sometimes we will have quite large size differentials. Last season, we had a guy playing for one of the teams, another Ash, forgotten his surname now, who was pretty big. He would have been 115, 120 kilo, pretty solid, big, strong boy. And we've got some players who are maybe 60, 70 kilos. You can imagine who's going to win the collision. It's mostly obvious. Sometimes the big guys fall over harder, but generally the bigger players will tend to win the collisions and have to be particularly careful. And also, if you are a bigger player, expect if you do win a collision to occasionally get penalised for what you may think is unfair. When I was playing non-checking hockey when I first started, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was 110 kilos. And an ex-rugby player, and I was pretty good at getting hit. It didn't really worry me. But I was playing against, 60, 70 kilogram people who perhaps weren't quite so stable. and if the two of us were going for contested puck, I'd usually win it. And even though it was legitimate, I'd still get sent off and get 2 minutes for it for checking or interference. You just got to deal with it if you're big and accept that that's one of the consequences of at this point being able to stand up. So just have a bit of a read through that rule. If you've got any questions about it, in particular, there's a point that it makes about possession of the puck near the boards. I don't have a good video of that, but we'll probably talk about it at our next training session, and certainly at the games. If a player is contesting the puck, or two players are contesting the puck near the boards, you're not supposed to pin them to the boards. And what that means is get up behind them and hold them up against the boards. It's a bit of a grey area because sometimes it makes sense to do that, and sometimes in the process of contesting the puck, you can do that, but you're not supposed to deliberately hold them against the boards when they're not without also playing the puck. Okay.
Carl, is there anything on the screen because it's not showing up for me?
Yes. Did anyone else see it? There's a page called the Women's Rule, iceHQ Rule 1011.
Yep, I can see it. Yep.
I can see the screen.
Yep. It's just you, Lou. It is recorded. You'll be able to watch the recording later. But all it is, it's just it's a slideshow, PDF slideshow, and it talks about it's actually Rule 101. So you can actually look it up if you want and go through it with a bit more detail. But that's the gist of it. The other part about this is it does say quite clear that you're entitled to hold your ground. You don't have to move out of the way for anyone. A little bit like basketball in that regards. If you haven't played basketball, and I haven't played basketball very much, you're allowed to hold your ground. In hockey, you're allowed to hold your ground and brace. So if someone's going to crash into you, you don't have to stand there and let them knock you over like you do in basketball. In hockey, you can hold your ground and brace yourself so that you're a bit harder to knock over. You've got to be careful not to move into someone's way and then hold your ground, because again, that can be considered a check or interference. You're not allowed to shepherd like you can in football. But again, you can stand still and hold your ground. And if someone has to skate around you to get to where they're going, you're not obliged to move out of their way. You can stand still, but you're not allowed to move into their way and block them unless you're contesting the possession of the puck. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. So not shepherding like in Aussie rules or shepherding like in gridiron. That's not permitted, but you can stand still. And if someone has to go around you to get where they're going, that's their problem, not yours. You don't have to move out of their way. Make sense? If you move into someone, you'll get 2 minutes at least. So that's the no shepherding and so forth, interference rules. We just pretty much spoke about that. You can block path as long as you're moving in the same direction and contesting possession, but you're not allowed to deliberately move into someone's way to stop them getting through. You can't shepherd. All right. Buzzing right along. Okay, this is a weird one. Equipment. If you break a stick, you have to drop it. Sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Like you think, isn't that dangerous? So I'll just show you that in action. I've got one here, video of that happening. This is a video that I use a lot because it illustrates quite a lot of things, but I'm just going to show you this particular one so you can see that rule in play. This is a game between the Melbourne Ducks and the Coast in the Pacific League last season. So what did you see Michael McMahon do? He was the player that I'll bring it back forwards to. He's just in the bottom right-hand side of the screen, number 25. That's Michael McMahon, who was the captain of the Ducks. That's him right there. What did he do?
I saw a stick on the ground, but it all happened so fast.
It happens a bit quick, doesn't it? I'll show you again. So
Yeah.
we'll just run through it again. What's happened?
Well, he's got half a stick.
He's got half a stick, hasn't he? Snipped his stick has snapped in half. Bang, there goes half of it. What does he do?
He's dropped his stick.
Just drops it. Exactly. If you break a stick, you just drop it. All right, the referees will sort it out. You just leave it. And the reason for that is because a broken stick is a dangerous thing. The ends of them are potentially quite sharp. So at least if it's on the ice, it's not going to whack someone. They might trip over it. But a trip over is a relatively minor thing in the overall scheme of things compared to being stabbed by a broken stick. So if you break a stick, you drop it. You've got a couple of choices then. You can continue to play without a stick. It doesn't work very well, but in some circumstances, it's sometimes the better option. Like, for example, if you're in a penalty kill or something like that and you break your stick, just basically still stand where you are until you can get a change. That's not a bad way to do it. Or you can skate past the board, past the bench, and grab another stick from one of your teammates who holds one out to you. That can happen. And in fact, that's what happens here. If you watch what happened, Michael McMahon's dropped his stick. You can't see it slightly off screen, but he's just picked up another stick, skated back out into the play and killed an attack. And that's why I use this one as a particularly good demonstration video, because he actually then thwarts a counter attack against them. So he picked up a stick from someone who held one out to him as he skated past. What's the other option? What else could you do?
Sub off.
Yeah, get a change. We're always encouraging you to get changes, aren't we?
Always.
Yeah,
Change frequently enough. Often.
So if you break a stick, might not be a bad opportunity to get a change as well. There are some circumstances where you shouldn't, and in that particular case there, where Michael went back and then cut off an odd player rush, which is the most dangerous type of attack that needs to be prevented. What he did there was probably the better option, but also he's done that a lot. It's not the first time he's had a broken stick. And if he skated past the bench, all the players there also knew they were basically holding sticks out for him because they saw it happen. Here you go, grab my stick and off you go. And he borrowed a stick. It was Liam Webster's stick that he took, which was the wrong hand. So I think he normally plays a righty and he grabbed a left-handed stick. But for that purpose, it didn't matter. But normally I would expect that you'd get a change rather than do that. So that's just an example of what you do in that situation, which is unexpected. If you weren't aware of that already, broken equipment, drop it. Just drop it on the ground. The next stoppage, the referees will collect it. And if it's a broken stick, usually they'll just toss it because a broken carbon stick can't be fixed. So bad luck if you break one. They're expensive. That one. Did you see that one, Louise?
I've seen it in a previous video, but
You're not getting any video. All right. Okay. Helmets. I have seen this a couple of times. Your helmets must actually be ice hockey helmets. There was a player who was playing in one of the C1 teams who was wearing, I think it was a lacrosse helmet. The referees weren't pulling her up for it, but they probably should have. They probably didn't notice because they're a bit busy. But it must be an ice hockey helmet. It should have an approved ice hockey sticker on it, saying that it's an ice hockey helmet. It's usually pretty easy to tell in Australia. It'll be CCM or Bauer. They're the most ones that are floating around. There's still some old Joffers floating around and some Reeboks, but most of them will be CCM or Bauer. All the ones that you get from the rink are, of course, approved ice hockey helmets. It would be crazy if they weren't, but it is a requirement that it is an ice hockey helmet. In our rules, you are required to have either a visor or a full face covering. You're not allowed to have no visor anymore. That rule changed not long ago. It used to be that you could have no visor at all. And that's how I used to play back in the old days. And I don't know if you can tell how many times I broke my nose, but I got broken a few times. The iceHQ rule is different to the IHV rule. Our rules say that male or female, you can choose to wear a visor or a face cage. In the IHV world, which is Ice Hockey Victoria, Ice Hockey Australia, International Ice Hockey Federation, all female players are required to wear a full face covering. And it's only the boys who are allowed to wear a visor. Again, one of those great examples of this is not the same for the boys and the girls, and this is wrong. So the iceHQ rule is girls can wear visors if they want to. Do we recommend it?
I probably wouldn't.
Why not?
We all have to go to work the next day, I guess, and dental's not cheap.
Dentists aren't cheap. And it's also quite painful if you have a tooth knocked out. Why in particular do you think it would be important for players in lower grades of hockey to have full face cages rather than visors? Because a lot of the high grade players just wear visors. I just wear a visor.
Falling on your face.
Yes, but why?
With were skaters, first time playing the game for many of us,
Yeah.
not as stable on your skates.
Yeah, partially.
First time dealing with contact.
It's also that you tend to wave your sticks around a lot more.
That also makes sense. Yep.
So you tend to have what's called a high stick, because the stick is the dangerous thing. Although you can get hit in the face by a puck. I wore one in the jaw about a month ago from a defensive player who was trying to clear the puck, and I didn't get out of the way. I scored it right in the cheek, which did hurt, but didn't break anything, luckily. But yeah, you guys tend to wave your sticks around a lot more. So I'm going to show you a video of how that can happen. I'll show you a photo of it as well, so you can kind of see it at a high level, and then you can see why even in higher levels it's not a bad idea. Look, I should wear a visor, and I think everyone should, but that said, I don't like it, and so you can be stupid if you want. I know I am. So there's an example of a high stick. That's Brody Lindell from the Ducks, and I don't know who it is exactly from the Adelaide Avalanche. We're trying to clip him around the ear with a stick. All right, helmets are good. They protect you from that sort of stuff quite well. The one I wanted to show you, and this is an example of, it's not the best example, but it's kind of the best that I could come up with without going through hours and hours and hours of video, which is easy to do when you get kind of swamped by these things. So you'll see, I'll pause it when it matters. See, at the moment, most of the players have their sticks down on the ice, yeah? That's a question, by the way, you can answer. You can see that most of the players have their sticks on the ice.
Yes, except for the deals player in the slot.
Yeah, except for the deals player in the slot. I've forgotten who it is, but we'll watch what happens there. Most of them, you want to have your stick on the ice almost all the time. And this is one of the reasons for why, is you don't necessarily know who's behind you. So watch what happens in that goal mouth. All right, now he's kind of, if you look at how he's holding the stick, there's no one near him, but he's got his stick primed in such a way that if he rotates his body, what's the stick going to do?
It's going to come up.
Yeah, isn't it? Absolutely. So let's see what happens. Whack. Lisa Mack was not happy because she just scored a stick to the side of the head. Now she's wearing a full face and a proper helmet and a full cage, so it's annoying more than anything else. It hasn't caused her any injury. She's not very happy about it, and it's right in front of the referee too. So he's going to get 2 minutes for the high stick. But that's another good reason for why you want to keep your sticks down, but also being mindful that at this level, people aren't going to keep their sticks down because they're not confident skaters usually. They're waving the thing around because, that's just what they're doing. And as a result, although you might see higher level players choosing not to wear full face cages, I think for most of you in C2, it's a pretty good idea. You see Lisa gets a bit upset about it as well. yeah, it was him. Referee signals for high stick, and off we go. 2 minutes in the box. Okay, keep your sticks down, but wear a helmet or wear a full face helmet in C2. Despite what you see, those of us who are too stupid to do it doing ourselves. If you are going to use a visor, oops, get back to here. You can see there's Hayden Dawes doing this is how not to wear a mouth guard. I don't know why he bothers with it, to be honest. He plays the whole game with it half hanging out of his mouth like that, like a piece of chewing gum. It's like, mate, if you wear a mouth guard. I don't know if people still do it, but when I was a kid, bicycle helmets became compulsory. And so the cool kids, i.e. the stupid ones, we used to ride around with their helmets on their handlebars. It's like, why? You're going to, whatever. Anyway, it also should be secure and well maintained. Your helmet should be done up and the strap should be done up on all those sorts of things. I know it's not always easy when you're using borrowed equipment from the rink, but when you go and pick it up, make sure that all the straps are okay. Jane will give you a helmet and pads and so forth, and you take them away. And if you don't check them at the time, she doesn't have time to check all of them because she's dealing with like 30 of you. Make sure it's okay when you go and get it. And as soon as you can, get your own gear because that way you know that it's it's going to fit you and it's adjusted properly and all those sorts of things. We don't want to have situations where 5 minutes before the game's due to start, you're saying, "Oh, this helmet doesn't fit." Well, you could have told us an hour ago. We could have maybe done something about it. But yeah, as much as possible, we want to get your own equipment and look after it. It's important that it fits well. If you are skating around with ill-fitting equipment, it's going to distract you. And there's more than enough distractions without worrying about shin guards sliding around your legs and elbows not being where they should be and all that sort of stuff. And your pants falling down. It's always funny when that happens. There's an interesting foul that we won't teach you. All right, so offside. Who here hasn't had a chance to read the offside and icing document? It was emailed out to all of you. Who hasn't read it? Everyone, excellent. You've all read it. So I'm going to show you some examples of it. But to start off with, the idea is offside is designed. It's if you've played soccer has an offside rule. I think field hockey has an offside rule. I'm not quite sure how it works. Don't really care. But soccer has an offside rule, and all these offside rules are designed to prevent you from having one or two players sitting all the way down in front of the goal, waiting for great big long stretch passes to try and get over the top and get past the defense. It's designed to make the game a bit more competitive, rather than just a kick-to-kick fest, essentially, like you have in a game like Australian rules football. The idea is that no attacking player is allowed into the attacking zone until the puck's in the zone. And if the puck comes out of the zone, everyone has to leave before anyone can go back in again. And that's the bit that gets interesting. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos of that. I've got one here which makes it really obvious. Now, this was in a penalty kill situation, so it's very obvious for what's going on, except that the defensive team only has 4 players on the ice, so they're not moving around. So it makes it a bit easier to see what's happening. 51. So this is the last 90 seconds of a penalty kill situation. The blue team are attacking, and the green team, the Hazies, are defending, and they've got a player off. I'm pretty sure it was Ash. Yeah, it was actually. She was doing that penalty for checking Luke. So this is when it happened. All right, so who wants to tell me what happened?
Sure. So the defense who was on the PK tries to clear the puck. The puck goes to the D in the center. The D allows that puck to go over the blue line. This means that offside is now in play. Immediately, all 3 of the McDaddy players turn around and skate as fast as they can to touch that blue line. The D goes and recovers the puck. And then only once all 5 players are either touching the line or behind the line does the D then advance the puck back into the zone.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you can actually put the puck back in before the players come in, though. And this is where it gets interesting, because you're absolutely right. And those players all did the right thing. But if this was a situation where, I'm not sure is that Rickson? I don't know who it is. It might be, anyway, whoever it is, doesn't matter. So as all of the players come out, you can see how that defensive player there, number 66, he's not under any pressure, is he?
No.
There's no one anywhere near him. So he's got plenty of time to do whatever he wants. If, on the other hand, one of the green players had come up and put pressure on him, then he has another option. And what he can do is you can actually put the puck all the way back into the offensive zone. So he could, at that point, if he was under pressure, so where we are now in the game, if he wanted to, he could put the puck into the corner. This player would still have to come out before anyone went back in again. But the reason you would do that would be if you needed to buy time or relieve pressure. What do I mean by that?
So, like you said, if the D is providing pressure, especially in a PK situation, they're likely to not want to pressure too much unless they actually get a fast break rate.
Let's imagine it's not a PK. It's just normal 5-on-5.
Yeah, 5-on-5. The Ds are coming out of the zone following the attackers that have to leave. So they're putting on pressure. By dumping the puck into the corners, you force at least some of them to go back and then the others to structure for passes around in the defensive zone. And it buys you time for this player.
Buys you time. Yeah. Keep it simple. It buys you time.
Yeah.
what it does is it means that they have to go back and get the puck, which basically buys time. So if 66 here was being pressured, say Craig here had moved up and was skating towards him, which he didn't do in that situation, but a more aggressive penalty kill or a 5-on-5 situation, they might. He could say, right, I'm in trouble. I'm going to dump the puck into the corner. Everyone still has to come out before anyone can go back in, but you can put the puck in. What you can't do is you can't try and score a goal. That's called a deliberate offside. So you can shoot it into the corner, but you can't shoot it on the net. And if you do, it'll be called a deliberate offside, and you'll then have a defensive zone face-off right back down the other end of the ring, which is an undesirable thing. Okay, so if you're in that situation, you can put the puck in, but everyone still has to come out, and you can't shoot it on the net. If everyone's come out, you can shoot it on the net, because then it's no longer an offside. Any questions about that? There will be a test. Every single game will be a test. No, all good. We'll move on. That's offside. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Until you've actually done it for real, it's going to seem a bit weird. I'll show you an example of an offside that doesn't work, so that they get caught. Oops, come back here. What am I doing? So this is another offside situation. Come back, Zoom sharer. Where did you go? You are. Puck's gone all the way in for blue. Kenny clears it by dumping it around the back of the net. Good play, Kenny. That's a very smart thing to do. Puck's going to come out, and it does. But there's 2 green players still in the attacking zone, isn't there?
Yes.
Yes. So we've got here in this situation, we've got this one. Oops, where's my annotator? I've got that one there and this one there. What do they need to do? They need to get out of the zone because the puck has cleared. It's, where is it? I think the puck's come out. So you can see in the top right-hand screen, the puck's actually come out past the blue line, which has meant that these 2 players are now offside because the puck's come out of that attacking zone. Okay, let's see what happens. One of them leaves, and then one of them doesn't. Oh, Dave, come on. Was it Dave? I think it was Dave. So this gentleman here should have got out, but he didn't, as he didn't realize. Now, if you're in, so one thing that I will do and Renee will do and your teammates will do as well once they work out how it all works too, is if you're on the ice and you're in that attacking zone and everyone's yelling out offside, 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 take a wild guess at what you need to do.
Get to center ice.
Yeah, well, not center ice, just get out past the blue line. Get out of the attacking zone. So if you're in that attacking zone and everyone's yelling out offside, you're kind of thinking, what? It's you, get out. Because no one can go back in until you clear. And in this case, they were under pressure in that corner. You can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but up here in that corner, there's pressure. So the green players probably want to dump the puck back in. And Dave here is offside, and let's see what happens. I think one of them, yeah, they entered the zone, and as a result, there's Dave, and he's just realised, oh, yeah, that was me. Sorry. All right, it's going to happen. Deal with it. But you know, at the same time, that's what happened. That's an example of being caught offside. He's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll go off and get a change. All right, so that's an example of an offside going wrong. This is another one. This is another example of an offside. So to kind of hammer away at offsides, but they are important because you're going to get pinged for them a lot when you start off. If you've seen it a few times, we've got a chance. Let's see what happens here. All right. So just by way of orientation, who's attacking and who's defending at the moment? Which on the top screen, what are we seeing?
The Blues, the Mac Daddies are attacking and the Hazies are defending.
Yep. And what have the Hazies just done?
They've cleared it.
Yeah. Well, the puck's almost cleared the zone. So what that tells you is these three blue players. What are they going to have to do?
Get past the blue line.
Yeah, they've got to get out of the zone.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. As the puck gets cleared the zone. Whoops. If that blue player touches the puck, is that blue player offside?
Sure are.
Yep. And so is the other blue player who's down here in the corner, who's down in sort of in that sort of no man's land there as well. Both of those players are offside. This is a slightly interesting situation, because if you look closely, you could make the call here that the player who put it back into the defensive zone, and I'm not sure because it might have been Kenny who put it in, or it might have been the green player. But if it came off a green player and went back into the attacking zone for blue, it nullifies the offside. Now, don't overthink it. That's an exception rule. And if you read through that document that says offside, that actually makes a point of saying, look, sometimes this happens. It's usually best to assume that it hasn't, unless it's really obvious and you remember the rule. And I can guarantee for the first 6 games of you guys who haven't played before, you're not going to remember the rule. There's too much going on. It's too chaotic. You're going to be just frazzled with adrenaline, wondering what the hell's going on. So don't sweat that one to start with, but this is actually a little bit of a technicality. If it was the blue player who if it was the green player that played it back into the zone, then it wipes off the offside. But in this case, it didn't, because the referee didn't call it that way. Puck goes in, the blue player comes and picks it up from an offside position and is called offside. Okay.
Just a question, Carl.
Sure.
Does that nullification also occur on deflections?
Yes. Well, a deflection is counted as a possession.
Right.
So if it's come off, if the last player to touch the puck is deemed to have possession, then plays it back into their defensive zone, then at that point it nullifies the offside. So I've got an example of that, not here, but it actually happened for the Bruins in another game. I'll just see if I can find it because it's quite an interesting example. If you guys want, I can look it up. This is it's an example of the special case. Just give me a sec to find it, as I wasn't planning on using it for this one, but hey, if we've got it, why not? It's under dev team, Zoom lessons, chaos and face-offs, I think. It's going to take me a little while to find. Sorry, just bear with me for a second. It's a bunch of old goals. It's not under fair contact. There's some funny stuff in there, but that's not the point. Sorry about this. I don't know where it is. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it because it's going to take me too long to find it. But it's just another example of the defensive players playing the puck back into their zone, which then nullifies the offside. Don't worry about it too much. It doesn't happen very often. And it's honestly, it's not an issue in C2 when you start off. It just doesn't happen enough for it to be an issue. So let's not sweat it. Basically, no attacking player permitted in the attacking zone until the puck enters it. So you can't lead the puck in, and you've got to come out if the puck comes out. If you just think about it like that, that's the easiest way to think about it. What we've got next, more about offside. If you're in your own defensive zone, you're never offside. And you're in the neutral zone, you're never offside. You only be offside if you're in the attacking zone. But basically, if in doubt, get out. If everyone's yelling at you offside, 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 if you just hear someone yelling offside and you're in the attacking zone, it's you, get out. All right, just do it. Don't ask questions. We can explain it later. And you can always look at the video later if you're concerned. All right, icing. So icing is a rule which is designed to prevent defensive teams from having an easy out. Hockey's a game where it's difficult to score goals. And at elite level, if you dump the puck down the other end, which is to say you shoot the puck all the way down the other end and it crosses the goal line at the other end without anyone touching it, it's called icing, and you're brought back for a defensive zone face-off, which is a bad thing. You don't want defensive zone face-offs against you. It puts you under a lot of pressure. So you don't just dump the puck down the other end. Now at iceHQ, the rule is a little bit different. It doesn't stop the game. I haven't got a particularly good example of this in action, but I do have an animated video that I did of this a while ago, which I do have in here, which will kind of show you a little bit about how it works. Hopefully you can all see that. So there's a referee at the top, very, very strangely drawn one. I apologize, at the time my 3D rendering skills were not great. And you can see the green team, there's a puck, and the red team. So the green team dumps the puck all the way in from their own side of the goal of the center line. The puck goes down. Can you all see it all right? There's the puck there. It started off behind the line here, and it's gone down there, and it's going to end up behind the goal line. Okay. Down behind the goal line. Now, at that point, the green player is not allowed to go in and contest it. The referee at that point has their hand up in the air. They may also be yelling out icing. Depends a bit on the referee. You may or may not be able to hear them, but they will extend their hand up vertically in the air to indicate that it's an icing, at which point the attacking player, this green one, must stop must not go any further in than the face-off dots. I know at iceHQ at the moment, they're a little bit hard to see. That's going to get fixed in December when we melt the ice and redo them all. But for the moment, just trust me, they're there. All right, so the green player holds. The green player is not allowed to go in and put pressure on the red player until the red player or the red team has recognizable control of the puck. Well, what do you think that means?
Sounds a little vague by default, by design.
It is a little vague, but
but I'm gonna go with has touched the puck in some way to indicate that they have stick control of it.
Yep. What if they just stand there and don't touch the puck?
Well, they're not under any pressure, so I suppose if they're just kind of standing there, there's a fair argument for control.
Yep, the referee will give them about a second to muck around, and if they're trying to delay the game by not playing it, then the referee will wave off the icing. No, the referee will extend their hands out horizontally, and then that player is now fair game. So what it's trying to do, the idea behind the rule at iceHQ is to keep the game moving. We don't want to have to stop and bring face-offs back all the other end. So from a defensive player's perspective, dumping the puck all the way down the other end isn't such a disaster like it would be in an IHV game. Or an NHL game, for example. The idea is if you put the puck all the way down the other end, the other team then gets a chance to do a breakout, which is a counter-attack. But they don't get a lot of time to do it. So as soon as that player has recognizable control, the referee will wave off the icing by taking the hand up to both hands out horizontal. You can see that in this little video here. Not for very long, but anyway, and then away it goes. If the green player continues in and puts pressure on that puck carrier before the referee waves it off, guess what happens?
Defensive zone face-off.
Defensive zone face-off. Is that a good thing?
For the other team.
It's good for the other team, isn't it? Absolutely. Why?
Puck's in the attacking third. Everyone's on side. Everyone's ready to shoot.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Shots on net, win games.
It's an opportunity to score a goal. Yep. It's not a very good opportunity though, to be honest. It's a structured position, and structured positions are hard to score against. But we'll worry about that later. So that the other part about icing is if you're on a penalty kill, so if one or two of your players are in the penalty box, the icing rule does not apply. Again, not that it makes an enormous amount of difference from the point of view of the iceHQ icing rule because the team needs to go back and pick up the puck anyway. But if you're watching, for example, an NHL game or a Ducks game or an IHV or an AIHL or whatever game it is that you're watching, and you see the puck get dumped down the other end on a penalty kill, there's no bringing the puck back for a face-off in that situation. So you can get yourself out of trouble if you're under a defensive pressure because of a penalty. For us in the iceHQ rule, it actually doesn't make an awful lot of difference because most of the time, most teams will have a penalty kill where they don't go up and forecheck, which is they won't go up and put a lot of pressure on the team that's got the puck anyway. It's usually an opportunity to reset and maybe get a change while they run the clock down. And to be honest, at C2 level for the first 6 to 8 weeks, if you dump the puck down the other end, you're going to get a minute of the penalty lost, which is good because the other team will skate down the other end, look at each other, not know what to do with it, and skate back up, and half the time they'll end up offside. So it's a really good way to kill a penalty. So you don't need to go and forecheck on it. It's just a waste of gas. Flick the puck all the way down the other end and just sit back and watch and laugh. It's like, you guys don't know how to attack this, do you? No.
The all-powerful box. Impenetrable.
They will stuff it up. Absolutely. Guarantee it for at least the first 6 weeks. They'll stuff it up enormously and they'll end up offside. And anyway, more as you get better at it, it becomes more of an issue. But at the moment, dump the puck down the other end in a penalty kill and just don't worry about it. You must attempt to play the puck. You can't deliberately avoid it, or you'll get done for delay the game. You'll get 2 minutes in the box. So that's it for icing. Penalties, usually 2 minutes. Do not argue. What happens if you argue with referees? Do they change their mind?
I've never once seen it.
Nope. They don't, do they? What do?
They tack on more time.
Yeah, they give you more time in the box for arguing with them. Or if someone else is getting the penalty and you then argue with a referee, what's going to happen?
You've got 2 minutes in the box.
Yeah, you'll get one as well. That's not very smart, is it? What if you're really upset and someone's whacked you in the head with a stick, which they probably didn't mean to do? It's probably an accident. Just deal with it.
Wear that.
Right? You just got to wear it. Let the referee sort it out. What I teach, if you're in one of the teams that I'm working with, if you have an issue with an incident that occurred on the rink, you come and talk to me about it. You don't argue with the referees. And if you do it persistently, I'll kick you out of the team. Because it's unsportsperson-like behavior and I will not have it. You do not argue with referees. You do not argue with your teammates. You do not argue with your coach. You are here to play hockey and have fun. And damn it, you will. All right. You can sometimes get 10 minutes. Sometimes you get a thing called a game misconduct. If it can potentially be an accident, you didn't necessarily mean to do it. And you can actually be ejected from the rink. If that happens, you're not allowed to come to the bench. So say, for example, you get given a game misconduct. Usually it will be for arguing with referees. So if something happens and for some reason you can't control your own emotions and you go bananas and start yelling and screaming at refs and bashing your stick against stuff and abusing the officials, you'll get ejected from the rink. If that happens, you're not allowed to go to the bench. You have to actually leave the rink. So you go get changed and leave. It hasn't happened to anyone in any team I've coached because we're pretty strict about good conduct, but it does happen occasionally. There are some people that just get a rush of blood and can't control their own emotions and their own behavior, and they get ejected from the rink, and then they get suspended as well. And it's keep control of yourself no matter what happens. The thing to remember is at this stage of your hockey careers, you don't know what you're doing. And I don't mean that in a patronizing sense. You just don't know how to play the game. Your skills are poor. Your stick skills are poor. You're going to whack people in the head with a stick by mistake. You're going to knock them over by mistake. Mistakes are going to happen. And you have to accept and realize that the players you're playing against are going to do the same thing. And if someone whacks you in the head with a stick, they didn't mean to do it. That incident where Lisa Mack got hit in the head with a stick, the guy who did it, he didn't mean to do that. He was just pitchforking because he didn't know how to hold his stick properly. And as he swung, the stick came up, scored Lisa in the side of the head. She got quite upset about it. We had quite a discussion about that after the game. And she was quite cranky. And I said, look, the guy didn't mean to do it. Shouldn't have done it, absolutely. And you got 2 minutes. But it was an accident. Right? Don't go bananas at someone for making a poor skill mistake. Behave yourselves. Any questions about that? What about you, Kate Wales? You're a bit of a hooligan.
What? A goon? Absolutely not.
But it is important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to be able to keep control of how you feel, and you've got to give someone who gives you a whack. You've got to give them the benefit of the doubt because they probably didn't mean it, and even if they did mean it, they probably didn't mean the consequence. And we're going to talk a little bit about consequences of things that can happen in the rink. We've been going for about an hour, and that's plenty of time. So we're done with the rule stuff now. We've spoken about offside. We've spoken about icing. You now know that if you break a stick, you drop it. You know, if the whistle blows, you stop. You don't argue with referees. The other stuff will take care of itself. Mostly you keep your stick down and on the ice. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about safety, because this is very important. The idea behind the rules is to make a fair game and a safe one, but we need to go a bit above and beyond, in particular because we're beginners. Or rather, you guys are beginners. First thing to remember is the hardest thing on the ice is the ice and the boards. If you've come from another sport, then you need to know that you're capable of going a lot faster on ice skates than in pretty much any other sport that you're likely to be doing, with the exception of motorsport or bicycle racing. You can go pretty quick on ice skates. The boards have no give. If you hit the boards hard, things break. If you hit the boards hard at a bad angle, bones break. All right. I'm not trying to say don't play hockey because it's dangerous, but these are things that you must be conscious of. And I know earlier I was talking about stuff that when we played contact we were taught about, and that is there's a danger zone within from about half a meter away from the boards to about 3 meters away from the boards, which is where you're most vulnerable, because if you get hit at that point, you're going to hit the boards and get hurt. Middle of the ice, you might get a concussion from getting rattled a little bit, but generally you'll be all right. If you're right on the boards and you get hit, you're already pressed up against them, it's going to look bad, but it actually doesn't hurt that much. But if I'm 3 meters away from the boards and I get cannoned into them, that's when I get hurt, and I can get hurt quite badly. So we need to be very careful when we are contesting the puck in that danger area of sort of between half a meter and 3 meters away from the boards. We need to be very careful. We need to be very careful, and we need to protect our opponents. We must treat that with significant respect. There's some other stuff we need to be aware of. You've got skates on your feet. I know, of course. What do you know about them?
They're sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. Very sharp. And even if they're blunt, they're sharp. They can cause a significant injury. There have been people who've had slash wounds from sticks that have severed arteries. Okay, sorry, not sticks, from skates. So there's a rule which is both written and unwritten, which is that you never use your feet to push, kick, or swing at an opponent. Okay, that's one of the big no-nos. Even in the grades where fighting is allowed, which is certainly not C2 big or C2 B League, but if you're playing NHL, you can punch someone, but if you kick them, you'll get banned. And for very good reason. Your skates are very, very dangerous. You have to be very careful with them. If you do find yourself in a situation where you're lying on the ground, keep your feet down as well. Don't wave your legs around in the air. Keep your feet down. All right, those blades are dangerous. They can cause a serious injury and potentially even death, although I haven't heard of it, but I'm sure it's happened somewhere in the world. So keep your feet down. Do not use your feet as a weapon under any circumstances. Do not use your stick as a weapon. Do not deliberately swing it at someone. It's bad enough that you've got it in your hand and you probably don't know what you're doing with it when you start around and it waves around. I got done for a high stick in a semi-final a couple of weeks ago because I was going for a poke check and my stick got flicked and it flicked up and whacked someone else in the helmet. And I apologized straight away. I didn't mean to do it, but even accidentally, it can cause injury. Keep your stick down. Do not wave it around in the air. Do not do what we call pitchforking, which is where you skate along with the stick in both hands and you're kind of doing this. Right? That's a no-no as well. Lots of people do it. They're not taught not to. We probably should pay more attention to teaching people not to pitchfork because it is dangerous. That's why Lisa Mack wore that stick in the head, because the other guy was pitchforking when he turned. It's perfectly okay to hold your stick in one hand most of the time. And this is an interesting thing too. If you're a new player and you're looking at sticks, and let's say you're small, relatively speaking, and not super strong in the forearms, it's worth investing in a high-end stick. Why do you think that is?
It's light.
It's lighter. Okay. If you don't have particularly strong forearms and you go off and you buy the $60 wooden stick, those things weigh heaps. You're not going to be able to swing it. You're not going to be able to move it with one hand. So you're going to need to use two hands all the time, which means you're going to be pitchforking all the time, which is bad. Get a light stick. It's worth it. The smaller you are, the more you will appreciate a lighter stick, which means the more money you have to spend, unfortunately. But light sticks will help if you're small and relatively, not endowed with massive forearms. Be careful. Don't intentionally cause someone to fall over. No tripping, no clipping, no kneeing below the, no hitting people with your knees, all that sort of stuff that seems kind of intuitively obvious. You're not particularly stable on your feet. Doesn't take much to knock you over. Most of you will fall over when someone gets near you. Sometimes you don't need much encouragement. Sometimes just skating along, you fall over. It's normal. It happens in C2. That's how we know at the end of the season, because we teach these structured plays and it's like, oh, wow, look at these guys. Oh, that's C2 because they just fell over the blue line. I'm going to show you a video now. And I've spoken to, this is Naomi Conway, and this is something that happened to her about 18 months ago or so. She just moved from C2 up to C1. And this is an incident which it's far enough away that you don't have to be like, it won't matter if you're squeamish, but it was quite unpleasant. She missed 18 months and she still hasn't come back. She's talking about it, but hasn't done it yet. Naomi's on the right-hand side wearing green, I think. I think she's playing for Hellfish. No, she's playing for Adeli, one of the Southern Lights teams. What just happened?
She got put into the boards.
More detail.
Can you play it again?
Yep, certainly can.
Someone has checked her high into the boards.
Vector high. Let's watch that again then. Watch it again.
Looks like. Have I seen it right?
Where's the hit?
Elbow to head?
No, that wouldn't knock her over. That wouldn't knock her feet out from underneath it, would it? What's happened?
I see.
The guy's knee has hit her in the back of the leg.
Right.
It's flicked her foot out from underneath her, and she's then gone feet first into the boards and snapped a femur.
Ooh.
Whoops.
Yep.
Right. Surgery, reconstruction on the bones, all sorts of horrible stuff. She ended up having, like, this happened, I think, in one of the COVID gaps or something like that. I can't remember exactly when. Lockdowns are all kind of a bit of a bizarre blur now. No one can really remember what happened. But that broke her leg, and she then spent quite a bit of time in hospital and ended up catching COVID in hospital while she was recovering from the surgery. So this poor kid had a really rough trot. The reason it happened is because the other player, who didn't mean to do it, I'm sure he didn't mean to knock her legs out from underneath her, probably didn't realize that she was slowing down as she got close to the boards and basically ran into the back of it. So what do we as players need to be careful of?
Other players' safety.
Absolutely. Other players' safety. It is absolutely critical. I can't stress that enough. You can kind of see if you watch the very first bit of this. So we'll just watch it again. And I want you to pay attention to Naomi's initial turn when she goes to skate back. It's not very good, is it? Does she look like she's a great skater at that point?
No, not really.
No. So you're going to think straight away, immediately, just seeing that, you're thinking, okay, I need to give this person a bit of room and space. We're just playing a game of hockey, right? It doesn't matter that much that you win that contest. It doesn't matter enough that you'd risk breaking someone's leg or worse to win a contest for a puck in a game of recreational hockey. Okay, So we need to be careful. We need to look after each other. We need to look after our opponents as well as ourselves. And that's a critical thing that we all need to get our heads around, is that no matter who's barking at you from the benches, yelling out, win the individual contests, and I know that's me because I'm doing it. At the same time, if you can see that someone is clearly a bit unstable, give them room. And whatever you do, don't knock their legs out from underneath them anywhere on the ice, but in particular, be very mindful near the boards. What that guy could have done was just skated to the side. It probably would have been more effective anyway, giving her a bit more room, and then just poke check the puck away from her, and it wouldn't have broken a leg. He didn't know that. He's a beginner too. They're only playing C1. It's probably their second or their third season. Yeah, there's adrenaline and all that sort of stuff running around. He didn't mean to do it. He didn't mean to break a leg, but that's what can happen. All right, so we need to be careful. I don't want to watch that again. Poor Naomi. I did speak to her about it. She's okay with me using that video, so I'm not trying to make that. Not trying to turn it into a fetish or anything. Just so that you guys know that that's kind of what it is. Oops, what's going on there? That's what I was trying to do. I wanted to get the share happening again because we're nearly done. I know it's a little bit after 9 now. I'm sure you all want to go off and do something more interesting. Listen to me blathering on about rules and safety. Oops, what are we doing there? That happened. No, that's the wrong thing. This one, here we go. All right, so good habits. Keep your stick on the ice, don't pitchfork. Take care when skating behind someone, especially near the boards. Keep the gate closed, that's a big one too. Why should we keep the gate closed?
So people don't fall through it.
Yeah, it's got a sharp edge on it, isn't it? Imagine if you hit that going quick along the side. It's going to hurt. Look up, not down at the ice. Why is that important?
See where you're skating and see others around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you an example. This is a legitimate contest for possession. The guy didn't think it was at the time, but if you actually look at it afterwards, it's quite clear. So this is the last video I'm going to show you, and then we'll wind it up because it is 9:10, and I'm sure you want to go off and, I don't know, watch reruns of Doctor Who or something. That's what I'm doing. Let's watch this. That's a concussion. Should the referee have called that as a penalty?
Probably not.
No, it was a legitimate contest for puck.
Yep.
All right. Figures had his head down. Ran straight. That's Matt. Forgotten his surname. We should know. He came through our program a season or so ago. And Figures, the guy who's in the big deals gear who skated into him, basically skated into his hip with his head. If you look at him there, what's Figures looking at?
The puck and the ice.
He's looking at the puck and the ice the whole time. He never lifts his head, and he basically skates straight into the other guy's hip. And it wasn't really his fault. He was just contesting the puck, and the puck was coming out towards him, and he was trying to get a shot. And then, bing, Figures runs into him. Keep your head up. Keep your wits about you. Okay, it's an easy thing to say, but do your best and try and avoid that situation. And when you do have that happen, when Figures, I was in the change rooms after that happened, and Figgs came in and he was concussed. He was, certainly not in a state to drive home, but he was also quite pissed off with the other guy. And we kind of humoured him, but it's like, well, you look at the video afterwards, and that was just one of those things. It was an incidental collision, and not much you could do about it. So you have to give your opponents in those situations, give them the benefit of the doubt. That wasn't a dirty play. It was just a big guy who got run into by a little guy. And what's he supposed to do? Get out of the way? No, that's not how it works. So. And lastly, the last point I want to make, and this is me reading the riot act to those of you who are here, which is any deliberate unsafe play by a member of our squad will see that member removed from the squad. I have no tolerance for it. We do not play unsafely. We play with a good culture. We respect ourselves. We respect our opponents. We respect our officials. And we're good sports. That's about it, really. I will be putting the recording of this up on YouTube and sharing it through the page. So anyone who wants to go back and read through it is more than welcome. I think that's it for all of the slides. Yeah, that's it. They're all done. We've been through quite a lot in terms of some of those basic rules and a little bit about player safety, but the key points are with safety is common sense. But what does common sense mean? Do not put your opponents or yourselves at risk, or any more risk than there already is from being on the ice. Because the ice itself is plenty of hazard. You don't need to be the tough guy. The ice is the tough guy, and the boards are the tough guys. So look after each other and play with humour and compassion. Unless your name's Kate Wales, she's a goon.
I'll take it. I'm the new Ash.
All right, any questions?
I overheard something about throat guards being made mandatory this season.
I think for juniors.
What's considered junior?
I'll have to look it up for you. I don't know. The rules for the beer league at iceHQ are not the same as the rules for IHV, which is like the club system which runs at the other rinks. I don't know. I'll find out for you because I'm not sure what the situation is with that. It's not compulsory for adults, but it may be compulsory for juniors for whatever junior means. I know certainly if you're playing junior B, junior A, IHV, you're required to wear one. I don't know about under 18s playing in the beer league, but I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
Any others? We're all good.
What kind of dog do you have?
An Alaskan Malamute, and she's been eating peanut butter, so she's gone to sleep, which is nice. She can be a bit rowdy. So for ongoing too, we will run a Zoom session every Tuesday night. It'll be various topics. Most of them will be open to any beginner players who want to listen in. So if you're not in part of the development squad, like if you're playing for the Southern Lights or the Big Deals or whoever, you're more than welcome to attend and ask questions and participate. The idea is that we're trying to improve everyone, not just the development squad people. So you're all welcome to be part of that. Your coaches get copies of all of our documentation and notes as well for what we're doing. Next week, we'll work on some positional stuff. I think we've got our first game this coming weekend. I think
That's correct.
I get kind of lost because it all happened so quickly. And the thing to remember is that at least for the first 6 games, we treat each game as a practice session, essentially. It doesn't mean they're not competitive. We're not trying to win, because obviously we are. It's a competitive sport. But the emphasis, at least for the first few games, is that we consider them to be an opportunity to learn some of the stuff that we would do if we had, if I had 6 training sessions with the teams before we started, that'd be great, but it's not going to happen. We got 1, and that's pretty good. So the first games are essentially learning to play, but learning to play against live opposition. And these Zoom sessions help for those of you that have the time to attend them, because we can debrief them a little bit and talk about some of the stuff that we don't have time to talk about in the change room before the game, because there's only so much I can try and jam into your heads each game before it just stops working. So you will learn faster and be a better hockey player if you do these things. If you go to hockey school, if you go to public sessions, if you do power skating lessons, all of those things which seem obvious. If you want to get better at this game, you will get better much quicker. Your progress and improvement will be much greater if you actively get involved in pursuing additional training outside of what we can offer from this program.
All right. Thank you very much, Carl, for running
No
this.
worries.
It's been really helpful.
Yep.
Certainly will be recommending it to my other teammates
Yep.
who haven't attended.
It
So
will be recorded. It'll be up on the Facebook page in the next half hour or so. Have a great night, and I will see all of you, I'm sure, wearing either my jerseys or the other guys. See you on, I think it's Sunday, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Right. In the meantime, feel free to ask any questions on the Facebook group. If they're public questions, like people would benefit from knowing. If you've got private questions you want to ask that you don't want to make public, you can just send me messages on Facebook or email. I'm pretty easy to find if you don't have my email address already, but I'm certainly very easy to find on Facebook on the iceHQ development squad thing. So just tag me in there and say, hey, remember you were going to find out about those net guards for me and you forgot? Yeah, sorry, Lou. I'll find out for you. All right, and I will speak to you all in the not too distant and see you all on the weekend.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Carl.
Thanks,
Cheers, mate.
Carl.
Where is off? It's off in here somewhere. There it is.